Seja muito bem-vindo à nossa aula 3. Welcome guys to our class number 3. And today we are going to talk about past paths. Yes, we are going to learn about the past tense in Portuguese. And guys, this is very important. It is indeed, because when we are trying to making connections with people, the thing that we do the most is telling about our past stories, the things that we have done in life, people we have met, things that happened to us. So it's very important to really master this verb tense to be able to communicate and really create deeper connections to people, right? So in our class today, we are going to have a new dialogue, a conversation between these two friends. They will talk about past experience one of them had in a restaurant. So we are going to learn a lot of vocabulary related to food, drinks, and this is very important, right? If you want to understand how to talk about these kind of things in this context of going to a restaurant. Also, we are going to learn some important sentences for you guys using this context of a restaurant. How to order something, and etc. You guys will see. And of course, the past tense. Actually, we have more than one past tense, as you guys probably have in your own language. But we are going to learn this one that we consider very important for this, telling stories, okay? So let's begin. First of all, if you haven't met me yet, I'm Jamila. I'm one of the teachers and creators of Yes Portuguese School. So I'll be with you during this journey, during this week, learning Portuguese together, okay? So let's begin with our dialogue. Remember our method, guys, the bicycle method. The first step is to listen to a dialogue without reading it, okay? So I'm gonna play this dialogue and I want you guys to just listen to it. So try to be in a quiet place where you can really understand what they are discussing, and you may be able to recognize some words because you have already learned a few words during this week. So try to recognize what you can, and then we'll talk about this dialogue, ok? Vamos lá!
Você já foi no restaurante novo que abriu?
Já sim, eu fui na semana passada.
E você gostou?
Adorei, o restaurante é excelente.
O que você comeu lá?
Eu comi um risoto de camarão maravilhoso. E o João, meu marido, comeu um filé ao molho de açaí e umas batatas. Ele amou também.
Nossa, tô com água na boca. E o que vocês beberam?
Eu tomei uma taça de vinho branco e o João um vinho tinto.
E vocês pediram sobremesa?
Pedimos, mas só uma e nós dividimos. Escolhemos um petit gâteau de doce de leite e sorvete de tapioca. Delicioso.
Ai, quero ir lá.
Muito bem! So guys, could you understand some parts of this dialogue, the whole thing, or nothing at all? Let me know in the comment section. And if you find this audio not so good, we'll also provide the audio file from this dialogue in the WhatsApp group, okay? So be there where we'll share with you this dialogue so you can hear as many times as you want or need, okay? Remember that this is an important step. You can listen to this first, to this dialogue actually, as many times as you want, okay? At least 3 times would be good. So you can just come back to the beginning of the listening and listen to it again if you don't have the MP3 file yet, okay? So now I'm going to review the dialogue for you. So we are going to listen to it and read it at the same time, okay? So here we go. Let me put it here. Vamos lá.
Você já foi no restaurante novo que abriu?
Já sim, eu fui na semana passada.
E você gostou?
Adorei, o restaurante é excelente.
O que você comeu lá?
Eu comi um risoto de camarão maravilhoso. E o João, meu marido, comeu um filé ao molho de açaí e umas batatas. Ele amou também.
Nossa, tô com água na boca. E o que vocês beberam?
Eu tomei uma taça de vinho branco e o João um vinho tinto.
E vocês pediram sobremesa?
Pedimos, mas só uma e nós dividimos. Escolhemos um petit gâteau de doce de leite e sorvete de tapioca. Delicioso.
Ai, quero ir lá.
Muito bem, gente. I gotta say, I would like to have some of the things that they mentioned here. I don't know if you could recognize these words, but if you haven't, we are talking about them now. So, guys, here in this conversation, we have Bruno talking to Mariana, and he starts asking her about the new restaurant that have opened in their city. So, você já foi no restaurante novo que abriu? So, have you been to the new restaurant that just opened? And Mariana says, já sim, yes I have. Eu fui na semana passada. I went there last week. Then Bruno asks, e você gostou? And did you like it? And she says, adorei. I love it. O restaurante é excelente. The restaurant is excellent. Then Bruno asks, o que você comeu lá? What did you have there? Or what did you eat there? So she describes it for us. Eu comi um risoto de camarão maravilhoso. So I had this wonderful risotto of shrimps, or shrimp risotto. E o João, meu marido, and João, my husband, comeu um filé ao molho de açaí e umas batatas. So he had filé. When we say just filé, you can imply that we are talking about beef, okay? So filé in açaí sauce and some potatoes. Ele amou também. He also loved it. Then Bruno says, nossa, wow, tô com água na boca. I have my mouth watering, meaning that he really wants to taste this food because it really seems tasty, right? So he asks, e o que vocês beberam? And what did you drink? What did you drink? What did you have as a drink? Mariana then says, eu tomei uma taça de vinho branco. So I had a glass of wine, of white wine. And João, vinho tinto, a red wine. So attention here, we don't say vinho vermelho because vermelho is the word for red. Let me write here for you. Vermelho. This is the word we use for red, the color. But we don't use it. We say vinho tinto, okay? Then Bruno asks, e vocês pediram sobremesa? And did you order dessert? And Mariana said, pedimos, mas só uma, e nós dividimos. We did, but only one, and we shared. Escolhemos um petit gâteau de doce de leite e um sorvete de tapioca. Delicioso. So she said, we chose petit gâteau, guys. It's actually a word from French, and it's a small cake like this. And normally this, the inside part of this little cake is melted. It's really good. And it's normally a chocolate cake. But this one, notice, is doce de leite. It's made of doce de leite. Doce de leite, it's a kind of candy made from milk. It has a similar texture of maybe Nutella. It's more liquid than Nutella, but it can be actually hard, a hard candy. But in this case, it would be something soft like Nutella, okay? And sorvete de tapioca. Tapioca ice cream. It does exist, guys. It's delicious. Delicioso, delicious. And Bruno finally says, ai, quero ir lá. Oh, I want to go there. So, guys, I'm just giving you guys this general translation so you guys can understand their conversation. But I want to remind you that Actually, we are going to look at these sentences in detail now. We are going to understand some of the uses we have here in terms of verbs, expressions, vocabulary, okay? So this is just for you to already have an idea of the full content of this dialogue. And I want to remind you to do the two next steps of our method. Because we have done the first one, we listened to the dialogue without reading it. We did the second one, we listened and read it at the same time. But I want you guys to do now the third and fourth steps, where you should listen to each line of the dialogue and repeat after you listen to it, okay? So you can just rewind the video and listen to the dialogue here and pause at every end of line, or you can do it with the MP3 file we are going to send you, okay? But don't forget to do it. And the fourth step is about reading at the same time as the characters on the dialogue, okay? Like an overlay. Got it? So this is the best way for you guys to really internalize these new words, the way you should pronounce them, the correct intonation we give to the sentences, okay? That's why we really recommend you guys do these steps. And later we talk about the other ones, okay? So let's dive into this new content, guys. So as I said, we are going to talk about the past tense in Portuguese. We call it passado. So here's the sentence from the dialogue. Ele amou o restaurante. Here, Mariana was saying that her husband loved the restaurant. In Portuguese, when we are evaluating how we feel about something, we use the verb in the past if we are talking about something that we have already done or that we have already felt like this about this thing, okay? So, because maybe sometimes in English we just say, he loves it, in the present tense. You could do it. But in Portuguese it's more common to use it in the past, as it was a past experience, okay? So this verb tense, guys, has a formal name in our grammar, if you're looking at it. It's called pretérito perfeito. Pretérito is another word for past, okay? So perfect past, okay? But actually, it's not equivalent to past perfect in English. It's equivalent to the simple past in English, okay? Because we use it to indicate that the verbal action took place at a certain moment in the past, having its beginning and end in the past, okay? So if you were talking about something that happened in the past, it started and ended in the past, it's already finished, then you're going to use this verb tense, okay? So remember this, it's equivalent to simple past. Got it? So how to conjugate verbs in these verb tenses? So I selected the verbs that we saw in the dialogue, and I will show you these verbs here according to their group of conjugation. So this is something very interesting about Portuguese. We can divide all verbs into 3 different groups, and we decide to which group every verb belongs according to its ending in the infinitive form. So for example, let me put it here. In the infinitive form, all the verbs in Portuguese, they end in R, like amar, right? To love, comer, to eat, partir, to leave, okay, or to cut also. So they all end in R, as you guys can see, right? So this is the infinitive form of this verb. It's the name of the verb. If you're looking on a dictionary for a verb meaning, you're going to look for this form, the infinitive form, okay? So we have all of them ending in R, but there's something else. Look at the vowel that comes before the R in the end. Here we have A, or as we say in Portuguese, A. Here we have letter E, or as we say, E. And here we have letter I, or as we say, E. So these vowels will tell you the group to which each of these verbs belong. So every verb ending in ar, ar, they belong to the first group of conjugation. Every verb ending in er, they belong to the second group of conjugation. And every verb ending in ir belong to the third group of conjugation. And why am I telling you this? Because these groups, each of them, they share similarities in terms of terminations that we are going to add to the verbs. That's why I'm telling you this. Because if you can recognize that a verb belongs to a group, then you can already infer which are the terminations, the endings you should add to the verb to conjugate it. Because these verbs from this group, they will behave in a certain way, in a similar way. Got it? So this means that most of verbs ending in R will have a similar way to be conjugated. Most of verbs ending in er will have a similar way to be conjugated. And most of verbs ending in ir will have another similar way to be conjugated. Okay? I'm saying most of verbs because, of course, as in all languages, we have these irregular verbs, our nightmares. The irregular verbs, they won't follow any rules, of course. So in this case, we have a different pattern of conjugation. But as the name says, they are irregular. They are an exception. Okay? So these are few verbs. Most of the verbs will follow into these rules. Okay? So let's check the first conjugation group. I put here, guys, all the verbs from the dialogue. Okay? So in the dialogue, we had verb gostar. Do you know the meaning of gostar? To like. We had verb amar. We mentioned to love. Adorar, just like in English, adore. And tomar, guys. In the dialogue, tomar was using with the meaning of drink. Okay, take as drink. Okay, so all of them end in ar in the infinitive form, so they belong to this group, and they are regular verbs. So as you guys can see, they all have a similar way to be conjugated in the past, okay? And this works for present too, okay? I mean, they can all be a group, and then you can recognize their patterns to be conjugated in the present too, okay? So, how do we do it? So this part here is that part that indicates the conjugation of this verb. So if we remove this part, then we have what we call radical. Okay, let me just give you the name, radical. The radical, guys, is the part that will remain in all persons here when we conjugate the verb. Okay, so notice that this ghost, or in English, ghost, will be repeated for all the persons on the speech here, okay? The only thing that changes is the termination, the endings, okay? Got it? So, if you guys look, if we try this for the other verbs, it will be the same. If we remove this AR, this first part here is the one that will be repeated for all of the persons here. You see? The same here, look. This first part, ador, until the R, will be repeated, right? And also here, this tom will be repeated here too, okay? So, That's what you do first. You remove this AR and then you have the part that will be repeated. The terminations, that's the good news. They will be the same for all verbs. We only have to make the agreement with the subject. So, if it's first person singular, eu, then the termination is always a. Eu gostei, I liked. Eu amei, I loved. Eu adorei, I adored. Weird in the past. Eu tomei, I drank. On the other hand, here we have the same termination for the second and third person singular, which is o. So I'll say, você gostou, you liked. Ele gostou, he liked. Você amou, you loved. Ele amou, he loved, and etc. Okay? Then, for the first person plural, nós, we have this termination, amos. So we say, nós gostamos, we liked. Nós amamos, we loved. Nós adoramos, we adored. Nós tomamos, we drank. And finally, again, we have one single termination for both second and third person plural, which is aram. So we are going to say, vocês gostaram, you liked, and eles gostaram, they liked. Vocês amaram, you loved. Eles or elas amaram, they loved. You see? So, just to sum up, these guys show us that verbs from the first group of conjugation will always share the same termination for the verbs. They only change according to the subject. So we always check the subject and change the termination according to it. Okay? That's it. Got it? Muito bem. So are you ready to check the verbs from the second conjugation? Are you? So, one interesting thing is that most of verbs in Portuguese are from the first conjugation. So this is the, let's say, maybe the most important group because it's the biggest one, okay? So most verbs will be from this group. But let's see the next group, guys. Now we are talking about the second conjugation. Verbs ending in er, okay? So, in the dialogue, we have this verb, comer, eat, beber, drink, and escolher, choose, okay? So, the way we find the radical and the terminations will be the same. The only thing is that the terminations are different. Notice, here we have E as the termination for the first person singular, while before it was A. So they change, okay? That's why it's so important to understand from which group a verb belongs, or to which group a verb belongs, okay? So here, for the first person singular, we have this termination, E. Eu comi, eu bebi, eu escolhi. I ate, I drank, I chose. For the second and third, again, we have the same termination. Você comeu, você bebeu, você escolheu, ele comeu, ele bebeu, ele escolheu. Meaning, you ate, you drank, you chose. Okay? First person plural, termination, emos. Okay? Nós comemos, nós bebemos, nós escolhemos. We ate, we drank, we chose. Second and third plural have the same termination again. Eram. So here we have vocês comeram, vocês beberam, vocês escolheram. You ate, you drank, you chose. Okay? And remember, the way to find the radical, as I said, is the same. So remove ER here And then this first part is what we are going to find in all the persons of the speech. Okay? So you see, maybe you are thinking, oh, but it's not that easy. I gotta say, guys, Romance languages, they are trouble for those who speak English, for example, because we have these differences in terminations for each person, right? So this can be a bit tricky in the beginning, but it's something that you get used to. And of course, it requires practice. That's why it's so important to stick with our plan, our method, because it helps you to get familiar with those terminations, the way we use verbs, and to practice. This is the way you're going to retain all this new content, okay? So, eu comi, você comeu, and etc. Got it? So let's see the third conjugation group. And here, look at this one. We have an irregular verb, guys, which is the verb ir, to go. So although it belongs to this third conjugation because it ends, and actually it is only ir, it won't follow any rule, right? Because not even its radical will be the same. It's totally different. So this is the kind of verb, guys, we have to really memorize its conjugation. But the good part of this, of all the irregular verbs actually, is that they are normally the verbs that we use the most. Notice in your own language, think about the irregular verbs. They are normally the verbs that we use more often, like verb to be, verb have, to go, what else? If you keep thinking, you're going to see that these are verbs that we use all the time, and that's why we are able to memorize their conjugation, because we use these verbs very often. Okay? So this one, irregular, we have to memorize. So let's check it out, its conjugation. Eu fui, você foi, ela foi, nós fomos, vocês foram, eles foram. Okay? So I went, you went, she went, and etc. Check it out. Verb go, it's also irregular in English, you see? We can add just ed in the end of the verb in English to make it past. You see? So it's not only Portuguese, okay? So these ones, on the other hand, are irregular verbs. They end in er, so they belong to this third group. But we'll have the same process to find their conjugation. So if we remove this ir, or ir in Portuguese, then we have the part that will remain the same for all the persons, okay? And again, they share the terminations. So, eu abri, eu pedi, eu dividi. I opened, I asked for, and I shared. Okay? So, dividir, guys, mean share something with someone, but it can also be in the sense of cut something and separate something. Okay? Pedir can mean ask for, but also order in a restaurant. Okay? And second person and third person, again, they have the same termination. Você abriu, você pediu, você dividiu, ela abriu, ela pediu, ela dividiu. Okay? So you opened, you asked, you shared. Termination for first person plural, we. So nós abrimos, nós pedimos, nós dividimos. We opened, we asked for, we shared. And again, the same termination for both second and third person plural. Irão. Vocês abriram, vocês pediram, vocês dividiram. So guys, you see that we have some patterns here. Although we have this difference, there is a pattern. And I think this is helpful because if you look at the verbs, you see the similarities. And I gotta say, guys, I once studied French, and I remember that I also struggled with verbs. Even though I was a Portuguese speaker, which is a Romance language, I struggled a bit with verbs in French. And I love to just see the verb conjugations like this because this way I was able to recognize the patterns, you see, and apply them to verbs according to the group they belonged. And I gotta say, in French, we have more than 3 groups of verbs, so don't complain, okay? So, guys, okay, so we have seen the verbs, uh, their conjugation, the patterns that they share, their pronunciation. Now, I have a task for you, the practical activity. Remember that for each day, you guys have a practical activity so you can put in practice what you've learned. So today, you're going to create your first sentences in the past. You can. And I'll tell you how. You will tell me what you had for breakfast today. So I want you guys to use the comment section below this video. You can tell me what you had for breakfast in Portuguese here, and I'll be able to correct the sentence for you, to add something if you need it. Or if you don't want to comment here, you can also tell us your sentence and post the sentence on your Instagram account and tag Yes Portuguese. Just use at Yes Portuguese altogether, okay? So you'll be able to tag us, we will be able to see your sentence and correct it for you, okay? So you have these 2 possibilities, here on the comment section or on Instagram, okay? Okay, so maybe you are wondering, but I don't have vocabulary to talk about breakfast. You do. Let's go together. I'm gonna show you guys the vocabulary we saw in this dialogue we had today, but I'll give you extra vocabulary actually, okay? So you guys will be able to talk about food more deeply, okay? And even try some sentences if you have a Brazilian friend, a Brazilian partner, okay? So let's see this. So we had some time expressions, expressões de tempo, like these 2 ones. Na semana passada, and now I suggest you have your pencil with you or your pen and just take notes of the translations of these words and sentences, okay? If you have not printed your PDF file, you can just write on your computer, okay? So, na semana passada means, you know, last week, okay? Last week. Ontem means yesterday, okay? What about the food we had in the dialogue? Vamos lá. Risotto, which is actually from Italian, risotto. Camarão, what is it? Shrimp. Filé, it means filé. And as I said in Portuguese, if we just say it, we mean beef. If we are talking about a chicken fillet or a fish fillet, then we are going to add filé de peixe, for example. So fish in this case, or filé de frango, chicken, or filé de porco, pork, okay? Molho, sauce, açaí, you already know. Batatas, potatoes. Petit gâteau, I explained, right? It's the small cake melted inside. Doce de leite, the candy, the sweet made from milk. Sorvete, ice cream. And tapioca, guys, which is actually something that comes from the cassava the cassava flour, you see? And it's very popular in Brazil, and I really recommend you try it because it's very nice to have like wraps, sandwiches. You can also have sweet versions of it. It's pretty versatile, so it's nice. What about the drinks? Bebidas. So we had this word is not a drink, but it's connected. Taça, glass. Vinho branco, white wine. Vinho tinto, red wine. Other expressions we had there. Outras expressões. Novo, new. E and sim. Oops. Yes. Excelente, excellent. O que? What? Lá, there. Maravilhoso, wonderful. Continuing. Meu marido, my husband. Também, also. Nossa, wow, man. It's an expression we use to show surprise, astonishment. It can be either a positive or a negative feeling, okay, of surprise. Só, only, or yeah, only. Delicioso, delicious. And remember I said that I added some important words for you guys to use in a restaurant. So here we go. This list here was not in the dialogue, but I added so you guys can be more independent when coming to Brazil, okay? So, no restaurante, at the restaurant, the vocabulary we may need. So, entrada, guys, is the way we call the starter or the starter, okay? Entrada. Prato principal is the main course, okay? And sobremesa, the dessert. So what about the meals we have? We have café da manhã, almoço, lanche ou café da tarde e jantar, ok? Muito bem. What else? Here we have a list of drinks that you guys may need. Café, leite, suco, chá, vitamina, refrigerante, cerveja, vinho and cachaça. So let me just talk about some of these words. This one, pay attention because smoothie has nothing to do with the word in Portuguese, right? Vitamina, like vitamin. We also use this to refer to vitamin. But if you want a smoothie, then look for this word, vitamina, okay? Refrigerante, cerveja, vinho, and cachaça. The national spirit, right? Made from sugarcane. So when you have a caipirinha, the typical caipirinha is made with cachaça. We have some other versions with vodka, for example, or with rum, but the real one is made with cachaça, and you should try it, okay? Cachaça is a really nice spirit, I would say. And of course, you must try the good brands, okay? Otherwise, it won't be a nice experience. What about food, guys? And now check it out, because remember your task, you need to describe what you had for breakfast. So I want you to say what you ate and what you drank. So that's why I gave you also these words here. I hope you didn't have cachaça for breakfast, but then this is what you have. And here the food. So mention both and also use the verbs you've learned in the past. So the verb comer, eat, the verb beber, drink, or tomar, that can also be used with the sense of drink, okay? So use these verbs to create your sentence, okay? So let's check the food. Pão, presunto, queijo, manteiga, what else? Ovo, and here, not very much for breakfast, but also important vocabulary. Carne de boi, frango, we mentioned, peixe, porco, all the things that are very common in Brazil. Arroz, feijão, batata frita, if you mean French fries. If it's just potato, then you use batata. Some vegetables. Alface, tomate, cenoura, some other things. Bolo, torta, chocolate. We write the same way as in English, but notice the pronunciation is different. Chocolate, chocolate. Okay? And to finish our class here, guys, we have some important sentences that you may need if you are in a restaurant. So check them out. All of them have translations. So, nós queríamos uma mesa para dois, por favor. Another one. Poderia trazer o cardápio, por favor? So the word menu is cardápio, but you can also see this word, and in this case we will pronounce it like this: menu, menu. O que você recomenda? Another one. Ainda não escolhemos. Eu queria fazer o pedido, por favor. Eu quero a salada grega de entrada. So, when you want to specify what you want as a starter, you have this structure. I just put an example with the Greek salad. Eu quero lasanha como prato principal. Okay, another filler here. I used lasagna as the example. Quero mesmo. So if you want the same thing as your partner, then you can say quero mesmo. Eu prefiro meu bife mal passado, or ao ponto, or bem passado. These are very important expressions, right? So rare, medium, or well done. Okay? It's in the same order. Obrigada, or obrigado. Estava delicioso. And finally, pode me trazer a conta, por favor? Or just a conta, por favor? Okay? So, I think these sentences are very important. If you want to try yourself in a restaurant in Brazil, you should really practice this sentence so you'll be able to not depending on a Brazilian with you. And this is nice, right? It's nice to impress people and also feel like I'm able to do that by myself, right? So guys, that's it. That's a lot. This is a very, very important class and full of content. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed it to spend these 40 minutes with me. And practice, don't forget to do the other steps from our method. So remember, we've done the first ones. I suggested you to do the other ones. So don't forget also to do the ones related to cataloging the new expressions, adding them to Anki, the tool that can help you memorize these new expressions and words and sentences. And most important, do the practical activity, okay? I want to see you guys making your own sentences in Portuguese. That will make me very glad. So, I'll see you tomorrow, ok? Tchau, tchau, gente. Até amanhã. See you tomorrow.